Thank you, Governor, for having me here today. I am Seth Dillon, the CEO of the Babylon Bee, the world's most trusted, factually accurate news source. You can think of us like The Onion, but funny. We've been reporting the truth and nothing but the truth with neither bias nor error ever since the universe and everything in it was created out of nothing exactly 6,000 years ago. Our website, however, didn't launch until March of 2016, at which point we began sharing our highly acclaimed articles on social media. Many of them went viral, and we quickly developed a large following. Within a matter of months, our site was generating millions of unique visitors and dozens of dollars in revenue. Our outlook was hopeful. It seemed like satire had a bright future. But what happened next is no joke. In an effort to crack down on the spread of misinformation, Facebook started working with third-party fact-checkers. In 2018, we published a headline that read, CNN purchases industrial-sized washing machine to spin news before publication. Snopes rated that story false. Shortly thereafter, we got a message from Facebook saying that if we continued publishing misinformation, our page would be demonetized and removed from the platform. As Facebook began throttling our reach and threatening to deplatform us, we started seeing issues on other platforms too. Our jokes were getting flagged for hate speech and incitement to violence. Our email service cut us off for spreading harmful misinformation. We found ourselves taking breaks from writing jokes to go on TV and defend our right to tell them in the first place. That's a weird place to be in as humorists in a free society. I think it's tempting to view the opposition to the Bee as an attack on comedy, but I don't think that's entirely accurate. The attack is really aimed at truth and our right to speak it. The further we zoom out, the more it looks like comedy may just be collateral damage in that larger conflict. A recent policy change at Facebook, I think, illustrates the point. Not long ago, Facebook announced they'd continue to allow satire as long as it never targets marginalized groups who lack power and privilege. True satire, they said, does not punch down. Satire that punches down, that is, satire that takes aim at protected targets Facebook doesn't want you joking about, will now be subject to censorship. In fact, they've made it clear they'll consider jokes that punch down to be hatred disguised as satire. Other platforms have apparently followed suit. We learned this the hard way with a joke we made about Rachel Levine, a transgender health admiral in the Biden administration. USA Today had named Rachel Levine Woman of the Year, an insult to real women everywhere. So we fired back in defense of women insanity with a satirical headline. The Babylon Bee's Man of the Year is Rachel Levine. Twitter was not amused. They locked our account for hateful conduct. Delete the joke, they said, and you can have your account back. We refused. As a result, we spent the next 8 months in Twitter jail. This is one of the ways the system is rigged to protect the popular narrative. Big tech is defending a fantasy world where 2 and 2 make 5 by censoring anyone who so much as jokes about what reality is actually like. But it's even worse than that. Twitter executives went well beyond censorship when instead of taking down our joke, they required us to delete it and admit that we engaged in hateful conduct. That's not censorship, it's subjugation. I've long held that when you censor yourself, you're doing the tyrant's work for him. We never even considered it. What made this all the more outrageous was Twitter's lip service commitment to free speech. If you visit the site's policy on hateful conduct, it starts out with a ringing tribute to free expression. Twitter's mission, they write, is to give everyone the power to create and share ideas and information and to express their opinions and beliefs without barriers. Free expression is a human right. But this rings hollow when you consider the rest of the policy, which prohibits misgendering, dead naming, etc. They baked radical gender ideology into the terms of service so that even objectively true statements become enforceable policy violations. It'd be one thing if these ideas were merely popular, but porting them into the terms of service of massive public platforms has taken them from mainstream to mandatory. You can't criticize them. You can't even joke about them. Comedians are being canceled and in some cases physically attacked if they step out of line and tell an off-limits joke. The comedian's job is to poke holes in the popular narrative, whatever that narrative might be. If the popular narrative is off limits, then comedy itself is off limits. And that's basically where we find ourselves today. The only reason Twitter is now an exception is because the world's richest man took matters into his own hands and declared comedy legal again. The Washington Post reported that on his first day as CEO, he issued an urgent directive, bring back the Babylon Bee. Well, it was nice to have Elon looking out for us. The right of Americans to speak freely should be protected by the law. Justice Kennedy has acknowledged that social media platforms are indeed the public square of the digital age. These platforms are where the vast majority of public discourse take place. And while they're owned by private companies, that doesn't mean they should be able to do whatever they want. There's plenty of precedent for holding privately owned companies accountable for keeping the promises they make to their users and for preventing them from engaging in discriminatory behavior. I'm thankful to have leadership here in Florida that recognizes this and is willing to take action to ensure we all have the right to speak and, yes, to even make jokes in the public square. Thank you.